Hello and welcome to the Print Soft Cover. I am Sumi Sukanya Datta, and in this special broadcast, we are going to discuss a very special book, Just One Heart, a cardiologist's guide to healing, health, and happiness. I call this a very special book because this has been written by a cardiologist, but just doesn't talk about the physiological aspect of this very important organ. It is rather a guide for leading a healthier and more connected life. The author of the book is Dr. Jonathan Fisher, a cardiologist, mindfulness meditation teacher, and organizational well being leader based in Charlotte, US. Thank you so much, Dr. Fisher, for joining us for this chat today.
Oh, Sumi, thank you. What a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah. So, first of all, kudos for writing this wonderful book. Now, please share how the idea of writing this book came about.
I spent more than a dozen years learning how to be a heart doctor, and I read all of the textbooks and I went to all of the classes and I learned how this beautiful organ works in our chest. And caring for thousands of people, I felt myself still very unhappy. And I really didn't understand why. And I discovered that there was an emotional pain that happens when we help other people for years without taking care of ourselves. So I became very interested in the science of how our emotions affect our physical health. And I wanted to share it because my colleagues and my patients were asking me. So that's why I started writing the book.
Yeah. So you have described heart as part muscle, part engine, part soul. I found it very, very interesting and very novel.
Mm,
Thank you so much for writing that.
mm.
This book also puts a lot of emphasis on mind heart connection. Can you talk a little about this connection and how it affects our lives?
Yes, in our modern medicine, if you go to the doctor, they'll either focus on one part of your body or another part of the body. And if you have something else going on, they'll say, "Oh, I'm not that specialist." There was a time, we know this for thousands of years, that there was no separation between the mind and the heart and the spirit. We knew that they were all connected. And we've somehow, over the last few hundred years, begun to separate things, and it's causing great pain. The connection between the mind and the heart has to do with how our thoughts affect changes in our body every moment, whether we become afraid and our heart beats faster, or if we become angry and our blood pressure rises. This is part of the mind heart connection. And also, there is a connection going from the heart to the mind. When the heart is relaxed and it's open and it's compassionate and it's grateful, it sends signals to the mind to enter more of a state of calm and being more open to connecting with other people. So there's a pathway of information that's always happening.
Yeah, you have, like you pointed out, the modern medicine, in fact, despite its advances, is quite fragmented. Some traditional medicines, for example, in India, we have Ayurveda, which has a very beautiful concept of yoga. I think you have touched about this in your book as well. Would you like to talk about the traditional medicine systems that put a larger focus on holistic well-being?
So, in terms of the book, I mentioned many different traditions in the world. And if you go back to yoga and Ayurveda, it goes back thousands of years. And yoga is the connection. It means the connection. And it's the connection between the mind and the body and the breath and the spirit, between the individual and the universal. And the book is about how can we become healthy and happy? Well, we have to restore that connection. So if you go to a yoga class or you have a teacher, they have asanas, and the asanas are the heart opening poses. So it's always sort of expressing and opening and expanding our chest. But what happens is when we enter those poses, we are really opening to connection with something bigger than ourselves. And it's also good for our physical heart. It helps keep us healthy.
Yeah. So now stress is a reality of our times. We have to deal with it every single day. It has its physiological symptoms and impact, as well as impact on our mental health and well-being. As a cardiologist who focuses on healing the heart in a broad sense, what advice will you give to our viewers who must be watching this?
Stress is everywhere. If you're feeling stress, you are not alone. If you are a human being, you're feeling stress. So, the advice number one is always remember, no matter what you're going through, remember you're not the only one. There are people there that have experienced it before, that have made through it before, and that are maybe even there to help you if you will be humble enough to ask for help. So that's the first thing, is remember you're not alone. The second is to not be afraid of stress. We think that stress is always a bad thing, but stress, if we use it to learn lessons about how to live better or to protect ourselves or our family better or to avoid certain people or situations, we can actually use stress as a source of wisdom in our lives.
Yeah, you have dwelled a lot upon the qualities that may be crucial to protect the heart of holistic health and vitality. What are those qualities? Would you like to share with our viewers?
In my research, going back studying Ayurveda and all of these traditions in Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, you name it, there are these 7 qualities that come across no matter where you are in the world. And the 7 qualities, which are human qualities, but they also are qualities that come from the heart and they support the heart's health in every way, are steadiness, which means calm and dealing with stress. And I discuss how to do that. Openness, so openness to new ideas, openness to other people, openness to change. Wisdom. Wisdom means taking a broader perspective than just our narrow point of view, looking at the past and the future, making better choices. Courage. Courage comes from the word meaning core, which is heart. We know that the heart is a source of courage, so we have to be courageous in our lives and to take chances and to not always live in fear. And then the other traits of the heart include lightness. So we don't want to be serious all the time. We know that laughter and joy and gratitude can lift us up. And then ultimately, the ultimate trait of the heart, that one that is the most beneficial, that heals over and over, is the quality of warmth. Warm hearted people often practice empathy for others, compassion for the suffering of others, and love for other people and for themselves.
Yeah. So you have mentioned 4 aspects of our hearts, which is physical, emotional, social, and spiritual. To our clinicians who would be watching this probably, would you like to give an advice on when a patient approaches them with a diseased heart? Is there a way they can also treat the patient holistically instead of just being a physiological doctor?
Absolutely. That's one of my greatest hopes in writing the book, is it's to help individuals before we become sick, but it's also to change the way we practice medicine. Most cardiologists will check your cholesterol, check your blood pressure, and if you have a blockage, they may recommend diet and exercise and then put a stent to open up your heart or bypass the blockage. But without looking at the other dimensions, we're going to have the same problem over and over and over. So, yes, the physical heart is easy. We have to exercise and eat nutritious foods and sleep. The emotional heart means recognizing with your patients, asking, are you anxious? Are you stressed? Are you angry? Are you frustrated? Or do you have lots of moments of joy, optimism, gratitude about your life, and maybe having a human conversation? The third dimension of the heart is the social heart, asking people, do you feel like you are supported? Do you have friends? Do you have a community that you go to and you speak with? And trying to find ways that people can connect more socially, because that will help them in every way. And the last is spiritually. Spiritual means connecting with something much bigger than ourselves as patients, or even as doctors, as nurses, whether it means prayer or meditation or nature or music, finding some way to connect with something much bigger, much more awesome than ourselves. So any doctor can take these 4 dimensions of the heart and use them in the visit to make sure they're looking at the whole patient.
Yeah. Do you think it's happening anywhere? The modern science, the medical science is approaching that anytime soon?
I happen to be an optimist, and so I practice what I preach, and I'm always looking for places. I think there are places, yes, in India. I know there are doctors and healers who are trying to bring this holistic view. There are also many in the West who are practicing lifestyle medicine, which means not just drugs and tests, but also focusing on these other pillars of a healthy body, healthy mind, and a healthy spirit. So I'm very optimistic, Sumi, that we're moving in the right direction, but we have to get the message out.
Yeah, integrated medicine probably is the way forward.
Hmm.
Yeah, for the benefit of our viewers, can you also list some practices that work on our resilience? Because that is one topic you have again talked a lot about in this book. Do you think do they work, and how can we get better at being more resilient towards the circumstances in our lives?
So, the first thing before talking even resilience is to recognize sometimes the circumstances in our lives must be avoided. And so, even before blaming ourselves or even saying, I have to do the work, sometimes it's as easy if someone else is causing us problems over and over and over. We have to learn to say no, to set boundaries and say, this is not healthy. I won't allow you to do this to me anymore. Maybe it means leaving a job or a workplace. If it's so stressful, it's making us sick. So once we've created those boundaries, resilience means resilience of the body, and it also means resilience of the mind. Resilience of the body, the practices are breath practices, so pranayama. All of these things can help relax the nervous system, lower the blood pressure. Yoga is effective because of breath practices. Another practice is meditation, whether it's vipassana, mindfulness meditation. We settle the body, we settle the breath. There are also resilience practices for the mind, and they come from psychology, Western psychology, which involve looking at our worries and our thoughts and our anxieties not as facts, but as simply ideas coming from our mind that we can question and check to see whether they're accurate. Maybe we're worried about things that are never actually going to happen. Resilience involves that. And then lastly, resilience means every day finding ways to strengthen and lighten our spirit and our heart. That could mean calling a friend, practicing gratitude by writing down one or two things that we're grateful for. These are the practices that can lead to resilience.
Yeah, very useful tips there. And to our viewers, we have an advice: go grab a copy of this book, and you won't really regret it. It is full of these very important points that Dr. Fisher is making. With that, we wrap up this discussion. Thank you so much, Dr. Fisher, for taking time out for this discussion. And we wish you all the best for your book.
Thank you so much, Sumi. What a pleasure. Thank you.